Hey there, everybody world. This is Clay from Wicked Edge, and I'm here with Kay, my lovely wife, hiking partner, and our director of dealer relations. And we are at the top of the Santa Fe ski area. We hiked up here this morning. We're about 12,000 feet right now, and we're doing a fun little video series about the preparation of a knife that I'm going to be taking on a 100-mile stretch of the Continental Divide trail. And so we're having a little bit of tea up here on top of the mountain, enjoying the sunshine. And in a minute we'll talk about which knife I chose for the journey and how I chose to prepare it on the Wicked Edge so that it would have the best, longest lasting, highest performing edge that I could achieve. And so we'll talk through that in just a little bit. Okay, so hi world, Clay from Wicked Edge, and talking about my knife selection for a 100-mile stretch backpacking trip of the Continental Divide Trail. And so I'm going to take one knife and I'm going to make sure that it's strong enough and will do all the tasks I need and will perform the entire time. So it's going to be put to pretty good heavy use. I did a test run this last weekend in the Pecos Wilderness here in New Mexico. I was out for 3 days, and the knife I chose was a Continental F1. This is a stout little knife. You can see how thick the back of it is, and the ergonomics are fantastic. It just really sits in my hand well. I believe the steel is VG10, and it took and has held a great edge. So all weekend long on the trip, it was subjected to a lot of different tasks. I did a lot of batoning with it to split wood and to cut firewood. I cut a whole bunch of paracord, all kinds of just little camp chores. And the finish I chose for it, I wanted something that was going to be really sharp, a little bit toothy, so that it could cut through, paracord, rope, that kind of stuff really easily, but also be, a good performer in terms of cutting wood. So I needed a kind of edge that would do both types of tasks and perform well and hold its edge well. So what I chose was a 1,000 grit finish on the diamond stones. And the sharpener model I used was the professional series, which we're now going to start calling the commercial series. And it was great. I threw it in, locked it in place, and I matched the factory bevel at 18 degrees with 1,000 grit stones, and very fast. It was probably a 3 or 4 minute job to put that edge on, and it held up beautifully for all the tasks that I needed it for. And even after all of the work I put it through, I believe after all those 3 days, it's still easily shaving arm hair. So to me, after 3 days in the woods, really getting beat on pretty hard, the fact that it's still shaving now is awesome. One little tragedy: I couldn't find a stick like this anywhere when I was setting up my camp, because it's a pretty heavily visited area and all the sticks like this had already been burned up. So I needed something for batoning, and the only thing I found was an old elk femur, which was great, but it was a little bit tough, and I smacked the tip of the knife and broke it off here. I probably knocked off about a 1/16 of an inch. I don't know if you can see the tip there. Later in part 2 of this video, we'll go back to the shop and I'll show how easy it is to repair that on the Wicked Edge and what the procedure is for it. And we'll also look at this edge under the microscope and see how it fared with all that heavy use. So, in a nutshell, I'm going to take the Continental F1 on my 100-mile trek, and it's going to be the one knife I carry. I'm going to sharpen it on the Wicked Edge with, I believe, the 1,000 grit diamond stones. I'm really happy with the way that finished the knife and how it held up for me. So part 2 will be back in the shop. From Wicked Edge, part 2 on my video about the knife that I'm prepping for my 100-mile Continental Divide Trail trip that I've got coming up. And earlier today we were on top of the Santa Fe ski basin checking out this Continental F1, and now we're back at the shop. We've taken a couple of photos under the microscope to look at the damage we did to the edge when we were batoning and doing all kinds of work like that while I was camping. So I'll add those into the video here in just a little bit. And we'll talk about this broken tip that occurred when I was out in the field. And I didn't mention it before exactly how it happened. I had said that I'd used an elk femur I'd found for batoning the wood. For batoning the wood. But I didn't go into the fact that the reason it broke the tip is that elk femur is really hard, and the tip is relatively fragile compared to such a hard material. Had I been batoning with a large stick, I don't think I would have had any damage at all. So nothing against the knife. I think it was just my selection of that elk femur to smash on this knife with. So right now we're going to go through how to repair this broken tip. And what's missing from here is maybe 1/16 of an inch at the very tip. And I'm going to use our stock diamond stones to effect the repair. And I happen to sharpen this knife in our commercial series here. But what I'm going to do here is going to work with any of our sharpeners. Any of the models will work just fine. So if we can get in a little bit close to check out the shape of the knife, you know, there's just a straight piece of the tip just broken right off. And so what I want to do is I want to make this line here and this line here come together again. So I'm going to take one of the stones and I'm going to just remove a little bit of the material on the back and remove a little material on the front until they meet. And I'm going to do that freehand with the stones. So, you know, whenever you're freehanding it, just be careful. But it's basically going to look like this. I'm going to pick a line. And these diamonds are aggressive, so I don't need to use a lot of pressure. I'm going to pick a line and just do a little grinding here. And I'm not going to go too hard at it, and I'm going to periodically inspect my work to make sure I'm not, you know, doing too much work and removing too much material. Let's see, let's get in here a little bit closer here and see. Already I've managed to remove some material on the back there. You can see where it's shiny. And the line is starting to come down to where the new tip is going to be. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the tip of the knife here. This is kind of awful. It goes against every grain in my body, but we're going to just drag that beautiful edge right across here. And already we've almost got a tip back. Amazingly, I mean, that's really as little effort as it's taken. Got a tiny bit more work to do to get it shaped exactly right, so I'll spend a minute or two more like this. And I'm just using my 100 grit stock diamond stones. Back to shaping the back again a little bit to make those 2 points meet. Okay, and that's a good looking tip there. And of course it's going to need to be sharpened because it's completely blunted out here now. So that's the next step. You just throw it in the sharpener, lock it into place, and I believe I was at 18 degrees when I sharpened this thing, but I'll double check. I'll use the marker as usual, and I know I point this out in a lot of videos, but I just want to say I come straight down onto the blade like this and run the marker down, and it allows me to get both bevels, both sides of the knife at the same time, and it's just a very fast, easy way to do it. I'm going to throw my 1000 grit stone on and just going to lightly touch along the edge, and sure enough, you know, that's a good matchup. So, I've got the knife where I want it, and I'm just going to get to work on the front portion of the blade with my 100 grit stones. Alternating strokes, not putting a lot of pressure. As usual, it's just kind of letting the weight of the stones do the work. Nice and easy. I'm ignoring the rest of the blade so far because I've already got a good edge on that. I'm going to do a little repair work just to get out the chips that happened when I was batoning wood, but for the most part I'm not going to touch those with anything but the 800 grit and the 1000 grit stones. So I'm going to inspect my edges here, and it looks like I'm already almost getting to the edge and reforming a new edge. What I'm going to do is concentrate on one side for a minute. Kind of a scrubbing motion. It's always important to be very careful with what you're doing and watch what you're doing. Keep your fingers tucked in. And just lightly scrub here. And I'm hoping to do enough work to where I actually raise a burr in just a second on this. And I'm going to check for that burr, and it's there. So I know now that my left-hand bevel comes all the way to the edge. I'm going to do the same thing here on the right. Okay, so I've got a burr now on that side as well. So voila, that's it. We repaired the tip, and it's a fully functional knife again. Didn't take a whole lot of work, really nice and easy. And now I'm just going to cycle through the different grits until I get the finish level that I want at 1000 grit. So light pressure with my 200 grit stones. And then I'm going to pull these off, switch to my 400s and 600s. And you'll notice, if we get in here close again, the bevel is a little wider now at the tip, and there's a reason for that. And that's because with the broken tip, I've actually come down into the thicker portion of the steel. So we didn't get a lot of angle change, as you can see by the stone placement, but we did get a wider bevel because we've actually cut into that thicker portion now. So here we go with the 400 grit stones. And then the 600 grit. With those 800 and 1000 grit stones. And 1000 grit. Okay, and this edge is feeling terrific all the way along. Just testing with my fingernail. You can also test with a pen or a Sharpie and just see how it bites into at the edge of the pen at different angles. And that's biting in really well. So, totally repaired and back to fully razor sharp knife after 3 days of hard use in the field. Really beating the heck out of it. So very pleased with the repair on the tip and with the way the edges just come right back, and still very happy with this selection of the Falk Even F1 for my camping knife. All right, that's it. Bye from Wicked Edge.